All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Schoolscape webinar. I have to admit, I'm really excited about this webinar because I know all of you schools that are watching, you are knee-deep in exams and marking, and we know as an organization how burdensome that can be for you. So I think today's topic may probably come at the exact right time. It might be too late for these exams and tests, but we're hoping you'll be able to find solutions, tips, tricks that you can implement for next exams and next tests. So what we are doing as part of this series of webinars is we have kind of 21 companies that have industry experts in different areas, and we're doing a series of webinars where they can talk into topics and show you thoughts, solutions, ideas that can really, really help your school. So before we get to that, we'd love it if you want to say a hi in the chat bar. And where you're from, it's always nice. And then what's also pretty cool is at the bottom of your screen, you will see a little smiley face. If you click on that, you can give a thumbs up, you can give a cry. So if you see something nice, it's just, please let us know. It always just makes it a little bit more fun. And then we are really trusting that today's session is actually going to help you as a school with your thinking around digital assessment, some possible solutions, and most importantly, what you need in place. So we have a panel with me today, and what I'm going to be doing is asking them some high-level questions. So questions around how to introduce digital assessments, why you should do it, what you need in place, and then tips and tricks on actually how to do it. So that will be the first part for about 20 minutes. Then afterwards, because these are all industry experts, they actually know solutions that can work for your school. So they will present in actual solutions that could help you. And then right at the end, we're just going to talk cybersecurity from SonicWall. Anything digital, we know that your school needs to be safe and secure. So we want to cover that right at the end. So sit back, relax. Actually, don't sit back. We love having questions, comments. There's a questions tab. So please engage with us. It's always hard talking to your own self. So we love seeing stuff in the background, and we really appreciate you taking time now. We know what a crazy period it is. So on stage with me is some incredible people. Stephen from Snapplify, Eloise and MT are from Edge Education, and Dolan from EduTech Institute. So all of these are people who have experience, firstly, dealing with schools, working with schools, helping schools, but specifically around digital assessment. So that's why we selected them today. So without a further ado, it's time for the panel to start asking some questions, well, answering, I should say, some questions. So first up, the first question for the panel is, why should a school introduce digital assessments? How does it benefit schools, and how does it, and I think this is the key, how does it actually make life better for a teacher or a school? So I'm going to start with Eloise, if you would like to kick off and answer that one.
Good afternoon, everyone. So from my side, it offers schools the ability to make use of blended learning or a blended learning approach, but more importantly, it sees a seamless transition when schools are not able to operate in class due to COVID. And it also, more importantly, allows the teachers to share content and resources and easily reuse them. So this can be done between teachers and between classes. And you have the option to make use of manually marked questions or auto-marked questions. So this really does help your teacher's workload. This is hugely valuable as it can help reduce the marking timeframes, which is so important for your students that you can give them more instant feedback throughout the duration of their learning. It helps also for the teachers to see or identify common areas or concerns at a student level, but also at a class level. They are then able to address these areas of concern in a more real-time approach and accelerate the learning for your students. This also then ties back into the notion that personalized feedback increases your learner engagement, which boosts their confidence and ultimately their success. From the student's perspective, those that might feel too shy or intimidated for in-class and front and center type activities, it gives them the opportunity to thrive and feel less intimidated, which also boosts their engagement and their success.
Brilliant. So I think what really stood out to me there is immediately you can get an overview from the tech of actually how your class is doing and where there are issues. And I think that is something powerful about digital assessments. All right, Stephen, if you would like to answer that question, how does it make life easier? Why should they do it?
Yeah, I think, Pete, the only thing worse than doing a test is actually marking a test. So for me, one of the big bonuses of using a digital assessment is the automated marking. There's some really great add-ons for Microsoft, for Google, that are available that can do automated marking. Eloise also mentioned earlier just having instant feedback. So you can even do small class assessments to be able to gauge if your class has understood a section of work that you've just finished. It doesn't have to be long, but you get that immediate feedback, and you can see maybe this area I need to go over again, or I need to recap from yesterday on this area. And the nice thing about digital assessment is that it's actually fun. Kids enjoy doing digital assessments more than they do a written assessment. So it's an interesting way of getting the kids to be a little bit more engaged with their assessment also. Yeah. And then obviously the remote element, that's a big part, with lockdown impending, that you can do it quickly.
Yeah, I think Stephen, if I remember correctly, you're an ex-teacher, is that correct?
I am.
Yeah, you understand that burden.
Lots of marking.
Marking. I think that is, the bane of every teacher's life is that. So, and some really good points there. I'm gonna move across to Dolan from EduTech Institute, also just to share his thoughts on why schools should introduce digital assessments.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Yeah, so let me just give you an example. There was a group of MIT graduates that we asked a question a couple of years back on the concept of gravity, So we asked them, if we drop a pen on the moon, what would happen to the pen? Would it drop on the moon or would it float away? And all of them answered it will float away. So what they didn't understand was the concept of gravity. Yes, the moon does have gravity, but it's lower than the Earth, so it took a longer time to get there. So to answer this question is that there's a massive gap between the taught curriculum and the learned curriculum. And you as a teacher don't know, what the symptoms are, so you cannot diagnose this child, So what we're able to do is actually assess these learning gaps, because if we don't do it at the right time, what happens is the learning gaps gets wider and wider as they grow into the higher grades. So the benefits of this is that of a test is that you can go right down to the granular level, just like a blood test, and find out what exactly is this child struggling in, and how can we start to intervene as they go along. So yeah, that's my.
Cool, thanks, Dolan. I'm very sad to hear that pens don't float in space. Luckily, those MIT students failed. But yeah, I think a great point. Sorry, just one thing. If you are battling with your stream, I see James is battling. Please refresh. It more than likely means your internet is not strong enough to carry. So if you see black at any point, it means that your internet is not strong enough to live stream. But Dolan, I think a great point. I think when a teacher's in the middle of marking and assessing, they're not always looking for those gaps of where there are learning gaps. And I think, that's the beauty of technology. You can pick up those gaps so that a teacher can mark and not also have to worry about that. So great points. And it allows you to kind of fast track your school. So I think it's often people think it's only for top end schools, but I think we need to look at digital assessments across all schools because it really does help. All right, so I'm going to flip on to the next question. If a school is introducing digital assessments for the first time, how do they do it and what do they need to have in place? And I think this is key. For a lot of schools, they're going, I'm thinking about it, I can see the benefits, but really, how do I actually do this thing? And if possible, just for our panelists, if you could give some school examples just to make it a bit more relevant. So, Dolan, seeing as you gave us a good answer in the last one, I'm going to start with you, if you wouldn't mind answering that question.
Yes, sure. Yeah, so kids are coming from all different, a lot of times they're going to new grade, a different teacher has taught them, or they're coming from a different school, and you don't know where this child is at, and you don't know what their grade level understanding is at. So a good way to do it is actually to do a sort of baseline test where you could set, set a date at the beginning of the year, or you could do an inline test. So it's important that you have an internet connection, you have a coordinator there that's assisting in organizing the test. And like, for example, during the pandemic, we had a few schools that needed to assess their kids because online schools were popping up, kids were learning at home. And Wingview Academy started understanding that the learning gaps of these kids were massive. And now they are able to get like a customized report for each child and to give to the parents as well to say, hey, look, this is where my child's problems are and this is what we need to do to actually fix it. And then you could do it before you write your final exam, you could do an inline test to see what improvements that child has made. Yeah.
Cool. I like it. Thanks, Dylan. That really helps. Just so everyone knows, on the right of your school screen, there is a polls tab. If you click on the polls tab, I've actually asked a question. Have you used digital assessments? Yes or no? If you would like to submit that, if you're on your phone, you might need to look a little bit harder. We'd be interested just to give feedback on that to see. But while you are doing that, Stephen, if you would like to answer the question, if a school is using digital assessments for the first time, how do they go about it? What should they do? Oh, you are muted. You are still muted.
That was a rookie mistake. Sorry.
You've been on enough of our webinars.
Yeah. But I think change management is always a challenge at schools, and everybody's wary of introducing new concepts that are going to disrupt the status quo. So my advice for any kind of change or introducing a new idea is just start small with low risk assessments. So give the idea legs, let it go, and see and allow it to kind of grow organically. So starting with small class assessments, and then also just using the resources that you already have at hand first. So for example, many schools these days are using Microsoft Teams or using Google Classroom, and both of those platforms have automated digital assessment applications. So using those, and it doesn't have to be a whole school process. It can be something that you're just doing in your class first, and then you get to share with your colleagues or on a subject level. And then the last, I suppose, tip I would say is speak to your subject advisors, especially if you're at a government school, for example. Many subject advisors are actually open to the idea of introducing a component of a formal assessment being digital, especially now as we're moving into lockdown phases and just talking about working remotely. So, explore that also and get their input.
Brilliant. Thanks, Stephen. I quite like that. Just start somewhere and build from there. It makes a huge amount of sense. MT, sorry, you have not spoken yet. So if you would like to jump in and share your thoughts on this question.
Sure. Thanks, Peter. So yeah, look, when developing your online assessments, some important aspects for you to consider include establishing the purpose of your assessment and what you hope to achieve. Aligning assessments with the learning outcomes of your course, communicating your expectations and requirements quite clearly to your students. And more importantly, you'll need to remember that online assessments are quite different from your usual face-to-face examinations. So simply converting your current face-to-face assessments into an online format can be sort of a recipe for failure, as these online assessments are not in a confined, invigilated environment. So it is important that you ask yourself the following questions when planning to conduct online assessments. Number one, how do you make the assessment process meaningful both to you and your students? Should the assessment be synchronous or asynchronous? Should it be in a group environment or in an individual environment? And is securing the assessment necessary? And if so, at what level? And lastly, how do you plan to provide high quality feedback and opportunities for your students to act on feedback? A quick story. So ICB, the Institute of Certified Bookkeepers, was one of the tertiary institutions for which we developed the proctoring tool to conduct online assessments. And that really resonated around all the questions or things that we need to consider that I've mentioned above, was installed into that proctoring tool.
I think that's great. Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like the universities and tertiary education have been using this technology for a while, and I think we've seen schools using small assessments, quick things in the classroom, but we're not yet seeing full-scale like kind of exams and major tests. And I think there's such an opportunity to help our staff. Cool. And just a shout out. I see we've got people coming in from Botswana and Benin and all over the place. I even see someone from Oakhurst. I used to live just around the corner from Oakhurst, so that's a bit of a blast of the past. So thanks for everyone for joining in. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please pop it on the right. We might have some time for questions, but also our speakers can also respond. And also maybe if you have a story, just a one-liner of something assessment-wise that you've done in your class or school that works, please pop it in. We really want this to be a sharing environment, and sometimes those comments are brilliant in helping each other. Okay, so I think this next question is the million-dollar question. Schools are obviously concerned about security. So how do digital assessments prevent kids from cheating? I think at the end of the day, we want our learners to retain and know the information. So how does a school do this safely? How do we do digital assessments safely without the kids cheating? So I think I'm going to hand over to Eloise. Eloise is our rose amongst thorns as on the panel today. So over to you, and you are muted at the moment.
Hi guys. Okay, so for those that might not be aware, online invigilation can also be known as proctoring, and there are a number of products out there on the market, and also a number of features making up those products. What this does is it will look at the students' activities or their behavior during an exam, and at the end of it, a report will be generated, and they, depending on the product, it could categorize students into various categories based on this behavior. So if they render a green flag, obviously there's no suspicious behavior on the student's part, and obviously a red flag would be highly suspicious, and in that case you would then need to go into that report and have a look and see what's actually happening, and then you would then need to make a decision and decide on how you're going to then treat this student. There are also a number of key factors which you will need to consider. So obviously a cost. Do you require any additional hardwares or softwares? What devices are supported by a proctoring solution? And lastly, depending on whichever assessment, it might be a test, might be a formative assessment, or an actual final exam, what level of security is going to be required for those assessments?
Cool. Yeah, I think it's amazing to know that the technology can actually pick up what the learners are doing, and I think that's important. And just now we'll actually get into more presentations on actual solutions, and maybe they can highlight that. But maybe, Dolan, if you'd like to take a bash at answering that question just on security and preventing learners from cheating.
Yeah, look, generally with assessments, from our experience is that from a cheating point of view, every test is we are testing the skills. So the questions are not in the same order, and the questions are different. So we've got a bank of over 6 million odd questions, and we've got questions in that concept that's being tested all the time. So for them to have the same question is very rare. That's number one. And then from a proctoring point of view, we outsource it to like Deloitte, or they could also do like automated proctoring like Eloise. or we could teach the parents on how to proctor it from home, or if you're doing it in school, the parent would teacher would generally proctor that exam.
Cool. Yeah, I like that. So I think one of the things I'm picking up is if you're doing that in a classroom environment, you could manage it like you would normally a test. But the benefit then is you're actually getting certain components also marked, you're picking up on trends, etc., different questions. Very, very powerful. Cool. Stephen, if you'd like to take a bash at answering the question.
Yeah, I think, Pete, the way that we do online assessments does have to change somewhat from a regular invigilated assessment. I think especially for schools starting out and you're just trying your hand at introducing digital assessments into the classroom, the nature of the kind of questioning should shift. And as a teacher, ask yourself, what am I actually trying to assess here? And I think if we look at something like, as an example, Bloom's taxonomy of the different levels of questions, we want to be looking at questions that are more reflective, somewhat more abstract. Obviously, if you're asking somebody, a child, a question that is readily accessible, a list straight out the textbook, very hard to check if they're cheating. But also, you've got to ask yourself, what is the value of that kind of assessment? Are we just looking for rote learning? So digital assessment can be quite good for that higher order kind of assessments. And, I think digital assessments aren't a new thing. They've been practiced by hundreds of higher education organizations, universities, MOOCs, and it's something that we can do in preparation to prepare our learners for university these days also, because universities are using digital assessment. A lot of assessment is happening online, and we need to prepare our children for those kinds of questions also, where they have to say what they think about a case study or something like that. And so I think shifting away from that regular just rote learning style of questioning.
Brilliant. Yeah, Stephen, I think that's the shift. We have this technology, but it is different, the way we do it and the way we use it. And I think schools need to understand that and think about it differently, because it makes it a bit easier. And then just a big shout out to Claire Farrell, Martha Koch. Thanks so much for sharing your stories. That's really, really brilliant. We appreciate it. And then on questions, I see there's a question from Fred, which I'll answer a little bit later. All right, so to the panel, I think you've given us kind of actually quite a nice overview. And I think what we from Schoolscape side want to bring up with the panel is just think about digital assessments, think about them differently, think about the benefits and how they can help. We will go into solution mode shortly to present actual solutions. But before we do that, I'm going to ask the panel, each of you have literally got like 45 seconds for this. Your number one tip for when it comes to introducing digital assessments or running digital assessments. So, Stephen, I'm going to start with you. 1 minute.
1 minute. I think just keep it simple. I think as teachers, when we're implementing new ideas, often we can get stuck in paralysis of analysis. Give it legs. You do a quick Google search on what applications are out there that you are already using. If it's Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams, for example, just try it out. And you can iterate. And you learn fastest when you are actually practicing it. So just keep it simple and do it.
Brilliant. Stephen, I think that's been the best answer from the amount of smiles and love and stuff coming up on the bottom of my screen. Great answer. Cool. MT, your top tip, go for it.
Yeah, look, for my top tip, I would say number one is firstly creating a safe online environment that promotes trust, collaboration and engagement with the online platform and its end user. In addition to that, something that I think we need to focus on as well is to be compliant with the cyber laws and the data protection acts, as well as to have tools in your system to monitor and measure data flow and user behavior. In other words, prevention is better than cure. And it's always good to have a sort of data point and a measure to ensure that we can improve, like Stephen was talking about. Keep it simple and iterate based on your feedback. I think that's something critical.
Cool, MT, I like it. Thank you. Eloise.
I think my top tip is on ensuring that there's constructive alignment. So that making sure that all your learning outcomes, the teaching methods and the assessment are all aligned to one unified goal, and that is obviously to ensuring your students' learning and their success.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it is about the student success. So true. All right, Dolan, last but not least.
Yes, so I think kids are always scared of an assessment or a test. And we need to take that fear out from them and let them know that we're doing this for their benefit. We're trying to understand what are the skill gaps, We need to convey that message across. So I would say, firstly, do that, and then try it out with maybe a class that you think that really needs help, just to get the legs going, as Stephen said. And I think you'll be surprised with the amount of data you can get out of an assessment. And then from there, it's, there's a snowball effect. You'll realize you'll not be able to do without an assessment, a deeper assessment.
Cool. Dolan, thank you so much. I'm seeing all of you getting lots of comments in the chat bar and thumbs up and smiles. Some really good points. Keith mentioned, don't underestimate the beauty of immediate diagnostic, formative, summative assessments. That's a big word, big amount of words. Even just a humble Kahoot. And I think, I just want to share Kahoots for quick, immediate diagnostic, formative, summative assessments in the classroom. Kahoot is a fantastic tool. So if you haven't played with it, check it out. It is a free tool. All right. So thank you everyone for the comments. We've kind of done the first session where we just wanted to get some kind of general thinking. But from Schoolscape side, at the end of the day, we really feel a lot of our role is to kind of inspire schools out there with what is possible, but then also actually show solutions that can work. So we're going to go into solutions mode. And what I've asked our panelists just to present for 5 minutes their solution, how they could help you. And what we'll do is at the end of each solution is we'll just pop up a poll, and the poll basically says, would you like the person to contact you with more info? It just allows us, if you are interested, so you don't have to try to take their email address or down or anything, we can ask them to contact you. So to the panel, thank you so much. Some great points. Also, thank you to the audience. I'm loving all the thumbs up and smiles and appreciation. It keeps us inspired on the side. So thank you so much. Cool. And so let's go into 5 minutes kind of solutions. So I'm going to start with Stephen. Stephen, if you would like to just present what you have for us. I think Annika will pull up your presentation now in the background.
Awesome. Thanks, Pete. So today I wanted to share a little bit about our digital assessment program, which is actually about reading assessment. And as an English teacher, this is very close to my heart, because I think we all talk about how do we develop children's reading comprehension ability. But the mechanisms to do that manually or in the traditional way are very, very time consuming and inefficient, which tends to mean that reading culture isn't really integrated into the school. So we have partnered with Scholastic. Snapplify has partnered with Scholastic to integrate the Illiteracy Pro reading comprehension program into our digital library. Very, very simple to use, and I think this is one of the strengths of the program, because it requires such little input from the teachers. But essentially, the children will start with a baseline assessment at the beginning of each term that identifies what their reading level is, and then generate a recommended reading list based on that level. And those books are then accessible in the school library if you've got a physical library, and if you don't have one, those books are also available in the Snapplify digital library, which has the added benefit of being available 24/7. So schools learners can access their digital library over the school holidays or over weekends or after school, or, you know, if there's a lockdown again, you know, at least they've still got access to reading books. And then once they've read the book, there are over 80,000 quizzes on the books in the library that then assess whether the child has actually read and understood the book. And it's a very simple program, but extremely powerful. It's very teacher friendly, so it doesn't require lots of professional development time to get everybody up to speed. A really well researched program. It's been implemented all around the world. So we're very proud to be able to offer that to South African schools. Gives you instant access to the metrics of your learners' reading performance. And immediately from day one, in the first day of the term, you can quickly identify what your children's reading levels are and be able to implement interventions if necessary. But the great thing for me is just being able to grow the reading culture at a school. And schools do that in a variety of ways, regardless of what level the child's reading is. If they're home language readers or first additional language readers, for example, it meets them on their level. And it operates obviously across all platforms. And then using the quizzes, I think one of the most powerful elements is being able to then gamify or incentivize reading. So teachers create leaderboards in their classes that can then really make reading visible in the school. And schools integrate the reading points. So for every book you read, you get points, and they integrate those points into awards. Most books read in grade 7, most books read across the whole school on an annual basis or termly basis. And then also, one of the great things one of our schools has done is integrated their book points into their house system. So you can actually earn points for your house according to how many books you've read. And it requires no intervention or kind of assessment from the teachers. They just go on the teacher dashboard, and I can see how many books each child has actually read and understood. And lastly, I think one of the important elements is just being able to pull the families in. So reports go out to the families each term to be able to shift the responsibility, because most of the reading is going to happen at home. So we need to be able to inform our parents, this is your child's Lexile level, this is how many books they've read this term, and these are the kinds of interventions we can put in at home to grow reading, not just at school, but also at home. So that is Literacy Pro in a nutshell. Very powerful program, and we get great results. So yeah, happy to take questions.
Stephen, I think that's absolutely amazing. I have pinged up a poll on the right. It says, would you like Snapplify to contact you and give you more information on this solution? You can say, yes, please share my details, or no thanks. So if you'd like more info on this, Stephen can actually connect with you. Stephen, I think the thing that really stood out for me is your solution actually takes the burden off the teacher. And I think that's technology. It needs to be effortless, and it needs to remove the burden. And I think just that from a reading point of view, it really helps a teacher and helps our schools be more effective. So thank you for presenting that. Schools, please check that out.
And it's cheap.
And it's cheap.
Yeah. It's about 20 Rand a month per child.
Okay, there we go. It always helps when you know the price point. So thank you, Stephen. All right, I'm going to then hand over to Dolan. So Dolan, if you would just like to present your solution, and we'll pull up your slides now as well. And you are muted, Dolan.
Okay, good. All right, so let me get straight into it. We are partnered with the largest educational research company in the world called Educational Initiatives. What makes us the largest educational research company is that we have 6 billion data points in terms of how children learn. These are some of our clients that use our solutions. In terms of assessments, we've done over 12 million students globally. If we look at what our asset our asset diagnostic test is doing is number one, it's benchmarking a child. If you look in this particular example here, you can see recollection or recognition of science facts and concepts. So you can see those questions, and that's where the child actually went down below the grade average for that particular section that the child, or skill that the child has come down in. And you can see here, for example, if you look at a misconception, it was asked here, what is the length of this pencil in this picture? 77% of the students answered C, which is 6 centimeters, which is the wrong answer. The correct answer is actually 5 centimeters. So the beauty about our assessments is that it goes through 8 pedagogical rounds before it actually gets published into our asset tests. Okay, and just on a side note is that Pearson also uses their asset test for their benchmark. They use our tests, our questions for their benchmarking tests as well. So asset is looking at benchmarking, and it's looking at the misconceptions. So it's diagnosing the misconceptions of the child. And then what it's also doing, it's also improving the teacher effectiveness. So post the asset test, we would have a workshop with the teachers and look at, okay, what went wrong, where were the strengths, where were the weaknesses, how can we remediate these problems. There's practice questions for each child, and there's a practice question for that class as well in terms of where they went wrong. So now when you do an asset digital assessment with us, all right, the school gets 3 reports. So firstly, a student gets a personalized and customized report based on their strengths, based on their weaknesses, and a customized remediation plan for them. Then the teacher gets a report called the Teacher My Book, which is giving them a snapshot of what happened with the whole class. And then the school gets the whole report for what's happening in all the classes and all the different grades for the different subjects. We obviously focus on English, maths, and science. Those are the gateway subjects that we focus on. So you can see, I will not go too much into detail here, but I'll actually take you into what an actual report looks like. You will get this content page for a student. It tells you the personalized student feedback, circular skill profile, the performance, etc. But what I'd like to take you into is that if you look at each subject here, it's giving you the highest performing skills and the lowest performing skills of a child, all right, for English, maths, and science. What it's also doing, it's giving you a circular profile and showing you, okay, which skill in English they are coming down with, or which skill in maths they are coming down with, or they got a strength in, all right? And then it actually goes down to each core skill and sub skill. So for example, vocabulary and context as the sub skills, and you can see that particular child has performed above the average. For example, if it's a strength, then they've answered more than sort of 5 questions right and wrong, you know. So if you go down now into the actual report of this child, you can see what it's actually telling you in there, what this child is actually struggling with, whether it's vocabulary and context, whether it's comprehension, etc. So that's the granular level that we can go down to fix the learning gaps of a child. And then at the end, it will give you a remediation part. It'll tell you what the child's strengths and weaknesses are. And then this is how the child can sort of improve. And then what's nice is that our reports don't work in silos. It's every year you do our test, we can give you the performance of how that child performed last year and how you performed this year and how's his progress. So that's just your student report. Then you also get a teacher report. We'll just go into that quickly. So these are all the questions and answers specific for that child, you know, and how they should actually remediate those learning gaps. So this is a report for a teacher. So a teacher, when the whole class does a report, if you look at question 20 there, if you look at the common wrong answers, you can see a lot of kids, more than 40% of the kids answered the same wrong answer being A. So what that means is that there's a common misconception in that class. It's either all the children learned it the wrong way, or the teacher taught that concept in a wrong way. So that's how you can actually address these situations. This is the type of insights that these reports will give you. Yeah, and it goes above the average. And then let me just go to the end. So this is a management report, so it'll tell you how your grade in English is done last year compared to this year. Has there been a 5% increase? Has there been a 10% increase, etc. Yeah, so those are the 3 reports that you would get once you do asset. And in terms of pricing, for a single subject, it's 220 Rand for either English, Maths, or Science. We cover grades 3 to 10. We've also got a bundle pricing for grades 3 to 10 for English, Maths, and Science, all 3 subjects for 520 Rand. Thank you.
Cool. Sorry, and that price you mentioned, is that price per class, per pupil, per school?
Per pupil.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Jolan, I think the one thing that really stood out to me about that is, as a teacher, to be able to kind of give that detailed report would literally take hours and hours and hours of time. And to me, I think that's the power of technology, is that technology can help you as a teacher be more effective and giving you an overview, but giving your learners more. So it was just incredible seeing your reports and everything it included. So once again, there's a poll. If you would like Dolan just to reach out with more info, please do just click that poll, click yes, and then Dolan can connect with you. All right, and then Inti and Eloise, we're going to hand over to you for the last kind of solution to present. So the floor is yours.
Thanks, Peter. So at Edge, we are not only looking at proctoring today, we also offer academic edtech solutions and focus on designing the future of learning through developing content which is fit for purpose. We design educational experiences, and in collaboration with our partners and clients, we take that from beginning to end and cover every aspect of a student's learning journey. So that entails program design, creating academic courseware such as digital course books, and also producing multimedia such as videos, quizzes, or activities. This can all be delivered through our coursebook platform, or it can be directly integrated with your learning management system. In addition, as discussed earlier, we offer a multi-factor authentication proctoring tool which ensures the integrity of your assessments. This diagram shows various levels of proctoring, ranging from trust only or a password only, which is obviously not secure. And on the other side, which would be level 6, is your traditional in-classroom invigilation, which is obviously not an online solution. Level 4 and 5, while they offer continuous monitoring, either by through software or through human monitoring, they do incur high operational cost, and additional softwares would be required. We have therefore honed in at level 3, which is unattended AI-powered monitoring. We found this to be the sweet spot because there's constant monitoring. It is also cost-effective, and it can be scaled linearly. There's my slide, sorry. Our product focuses on 3 layers, the typing pattern monitoring, the browser activity log, and webcam snapshots. The webcam snapshots are taken at various intervals. You can set this, so it's totally customizable. And the browser log activity not only monitors whether a student has left their exam browser and gone into any additional resources, it also reports any browser activity. So if the student has done any user paste actions, either within their exam browsers or from the additional resources, this will be logged on the proctoring report. The last layer is our typing pattern verification. And sorry, the slides just jumped. The typing pattern verification makes use of your typing pattern, and like we all have our own unique fingerprint, it makes use of advanced biometric keystroke dynamics, which can verify a student based on their unique typing pattern. At the same time as the verification takes place, an additional webcam snapshot is taken, and which is then cross-compared to the webcam snapshots, and taking all 3 layers into account, it will then render whether a student has any suspicious behavior during the exam. It integrates directly into your learning management system, and it also gathers telemetry, including any browser or typing data, which continually verifies the identity of your students. This tool can be customized, so it's not set in stone, and they can make use of any other features such as facial recognition, browser lockdown, face or voice detection, as well as ID registration. Handing over to Imti.
Cool, thanks, Eloise. So yeah, look, on Edge education side, we obviously have a 360 view when it comes to the educational space. So we look at education from a pedagogical point of view, and we also look at how do we merge the two? How do we merge tech and pedagogy together and make that a meaningful experience for the student, for the facilitator and the educator, and the institution as well. But more specifically, my goal is to discuss cybersecurity in the education sector, and particularly how can we address the challenges we face, right? So prior to COVID-19, the technology in education was primarily a facilitator. It was considered as a set of tools that would enable institutions to do the following. Number 1, improve the speed of information exchange. Number 2, enhance the interactive nature of lessons. And number 3, develop digital literacy, right? So even though these tools were powerful, they always had add-ons. They were always supplemented as a central system. The system itself gets enhanced by technologies like these in 2020. Overnight, these technologies became critical infrastructure as a result of that abrupt shift to virtual learning. The basic task of delivering lessons was impossible without these tools. And while we find that these tools were powerful in a remote environment, we also found that they were far from secure, right? So how do we ensure a safer 21 and ensure the interests of the future for online education, right? So digital classrooms will still be needed by educational institutions in 2021 and in the future. For school systems to be more secure than they were in 2020, they would need to rethink the way they think about network systems and student well-being. So during 2021, we should expect more educational institutions and government to realize that prevention is more cost-effective than cure. It is also evident that this progress is being made in that space as well. As we know, POPI and all these data protection access that is being implemented. The last thing that I want to mention is taking care of students' well-being. So this is another critical issue. Even if it's less directed to security, life before the pandemic was very different. So those in the education sector have had a challenging year. By learning the right lessons, everyone will feel like they have more control in 2021. And an important factor is to find edtech tools that can help you build trust. And what we should be concentrating on is building trust in the virtual classroom's security, making sure that the channels you use in the cloud are properly monitored, and the well-being of students is prioritized. If you gain this trust, everything else will be easier. A great year and a great future awaits. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm blown away that the technology actually takes a photo of the learner. It's so simple, yet so clever. You know, you can immediately check how they're doing. So that's some very, very powerful technology. And I think what you said at the end is so on point. You know, things are changing fast and furiously, but there is stuff out there that can help. So once again, there is a poll. If you'd like the team from Edge just to share more information with you, present how they could help, please click yes, share my details. And once again, if you're thinking about any of these companies, please just click if you think they have some, or if they could provide you with some information. They would love to chat with you and just share a bit more about how they can help. So we're now going to shift, and MT lined it up perfectly on cybersecurity. So I'm going to actually invite Raynant on stage. But while I do that, just a massive thank you to this panel. It's incredible to just seeing technology solutions in place that can really are well thought out and can really, really help schools and teachers. So thank you for what you do for the industry. Once again, all of these people will also share their contact details with you afterwards in the auto email if you'd like. I'm loving all the love that is coming through for you. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that. I'm going to drop you off stage. There were a couple of questions in the questions tab asking about mobile, etc. If you guys would like to jump on and answer those, that would be great. All right. Thank you, panel. So I think finally, MT set it up perfectly, and I know we're a bit over time, so we're going to be finished before 4 o'clock. But cybersecurity. So he mentioned it. It is big. And I've invited Wynand. We just thought we could not talk about tech in schools, home, etc., without talking cybersecurity. And I think a lot of schools are aware of the need, so we want to keep addressing it. So Wynand is from SonicWall. They're an organization we know and trust. So Wynand, first question for you. If a school is moving to digital assessments, so it needs to ensure the security, the broader security in place. So what should a school be thinking? What should a school have in place before they introduce digital assessments, if they're thinking about the safety of their teachers, learners, school from a cyber point of view?
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we have to start from the beginning and look at the whole school. Your entry points are key, and in today's world, the internet is the first and biggest one. So we must make sure we protect the school from the internet. The guys out there are bad. They target the weaker technologies, and schools being the weaker one. Hackers don't have morals. They will go and attack schools and try and exploit them. So we have to look at the first entry point is the internet. Then we have to look at where the kids go. If they go home, we must make sure we have something to protect the home as well. So it's like layers. You have, the more layers you have, the better you protect the school from the bad things out there. And the first is, at minimum, a firewall, a device that you put on your network that makes sure you keep the bad guys out. That's at the minimum you can start off with, and then we can build on that depending on the maturity of the school's network.
Cool. So then maybe just firewall. There's a lot of free stuff out there that I can download and put on. Is it going to keep me safe? Is it going to keep my learners safe?
Something is better than nothing, but it's free for a reason. So if it's free, it's open source normally, which means the hackers have the code as well. And normally there's vulnerabilities built into those as well. So if you really want to be safe, rather purchase a firewall or get one with a name behind them like SonicWall, and make sure your learners and your school and your assets are protected. Those free tools are free for a reason. There's no support. There's no one takes ownership of the breaches that happen. We make sure that our code are protected and our customers are safe.
Cool. And Bennett, what is a learner has a device. Say they're in a school where it is bring your own device. That learner is at home, parents, other people are using it. They're now bringing the device into the school. How do you secure the school in that environment, taking into consideration the school has no control over that device?
Yeah, for that you must make sure you segment your network or your environment. So if it's a bring your own device type environment, you must make sure your firewall segment your network, and you can isolate those threats. So for instance, if a kid goes home and they pick up a virus from the home network and they come to school, we must be able to pick up that virus on the school network and block it before it infects the rest of the network. And normally if you have a free solution, they don't do those kind of things.
All right. And Vena, maybe a question that pertains, so if I was super clever behind a computer and I was a kid, I would try hack to improve my marks. Your thoughts on that?
Definitely. I mean, now you've got all these digital systems to mark your exam, and you want to make sure that you protect these systems as well. I mean, Boredom and school holidays are normally the time when kids go and look at stuff. And on the internet, you'll find all the answers, how to hack other systems. And by not having a clever firewall in place, these online systems can be vulnerable. So yeah, you need to protect it with a next generation firewall like a SonicWall or any good system out there.
Cool. And then I think one of the trends we've picked up in schools, and let me know if you think this is correct. I think suddenly now devices have come into schools. We've suddenly gone from a whiteboard, or maybe an interactive whiteboard or a projector, to now devices. Learners are bringing in devices. Teachers are bringing in devices. Schools often don't think security, and they don't often allocate budget for something like this. In your experience, do you think schools are budgeting enough for cybersecurity? Do you think they are aware of the importance of budgeting for it?
Cybersecurity or security in a whole is like insurance. You only start paying for it when you've been hit by lightning or when you've been robbed. So no, they never budget enough. So you have to start and plan for this. The hackers out there, the attacks are really bad. They are out there to destroy networks and exploit people. And if it's a school child or a doctor with a lot of money to pay the ransom, they don't care. Every time they infect somebody, it's 1+ on their books. So the schools need to start budgeting more for security and expanding the security to have multiple layers of protection. Protect your network, protect your kids' devices, those kind of things. So the more layers you have, the better secure you are.
Yeah, I think the trend I think for schools now is fast tracking. I think a lot of schools are sitting in a place where they're suddenly realizing that the need is a lot bigger because there are dodgy people out there. They're trying to get access to the kids for dodgy reasons. They're trying to I won't get into the details, but we've definitely seen some scary stuff happening out there. So once again, there's a poll on the right. If you're sitting there going, Flip, I'm not sure if my school's security is where it should be. I've got a poll. Would you like SonicWall to contact you and give you more information on the cybersecurity your school might need for digital assessments? So if you're looking at digital assessments, that route, I know Vaynant and his team are also happy to kind of give you an assessment, give you an overview of actually how your school's doing, where there's a weakness, where there is a gap. They are experts. This is what they do. This is why we like bringing them in on presentation. So please, if you are unsure, reach out to them and they can share. And I know they are also looking for ways to kind of make it that you can introduce solutions. Vaynant, any kind of closing thoughts just for the schools out there?
Yeah, the salesman and me, we have made some arrangements with head office, and to all Schoolscape members, we will give additional discount if they engage with us and allow us to help them secure the networks.
Cool.
First SonicWall in the world.
That's great. I know as an organization we have to be unbiased in who we present, but I know my kids' school recently introduced SonicWall. I didn't even realize it until it kind of, I saw the process happening, not because I told them to, but I know SonicWall is working really hard specifically for schools. So that you've got a discount for people from Schoolscape, that makes me very, very happy because I know it is an expense that schools need to take. So thank you. We appreciate that. So please reach out. Vaynant and the team can can check out and get a view. So on the poll, just click that. If there's any other company you looked at and you thought, great, maybe I need to connect with them, please do that. They will share information and then you can make an educated decision what is best for you. So Vaynant, SonicWall, thank you. We appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you. We appreciate being here.
Cool. And then, ladies and gentlemen, last thing, one of the questions that came in right in the beginning was Fred Francel. Is there a way to connect with teachers on this webinar? So sadly, webinars are a bit one-dimensional in that regard. But what we will be doing in August is we're going to be running Schoolscape IT. And the aim of that event is to bring schools together to share with each other. So it's a virtual event over 3 days that will be in August. So we'll keep you updated and invite you, but that is really an opportunity for you to chat to other schools and share. So please watch out for that. And then also the different companies involved are part of Schoolscape Top 21. So beginning of this year, we identified 21 companies that we really believe can actually help and support schools. So please check out, just Google Schoolscape Top 21. We'll include the link. You can check out companies. Also, if you are looking for something and you can't find it, you're not sure what you need, please reach out to us. We have relationships with lots of schools that we can connect with you, that we can connect you with, that might be winning in an area, and at the same time we can find industry experts. So our job is pretty much to be that connection, to help you connect with other schools and with the industry to help, and we hope through that we can make your life easier. So last point, thank you. We know it is nearly holiday time for you schools. You deserve it. I think you deserve twice as long holidays with what you put up in the last year and a bit. So we appreciate everything you do. So thank you so much. And we will see you for our next set of webinars. And next week, we're doing one on STEM and solutions for STEM. So from drones, coding within that. So please watch out for that. And our apologies, we've gone over time. So thank you, everyone. Bye.